Hello guys, welcome back to LR Anime. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is Explanation of Battle Through the Heavens episode number 128 based on novel. So let's start. All competitors, please take your places. The final competition is not limited by any rules. All of you will have to use your full effort to refine the medicinal pill that you are best at refining. The blood of the many competitors in the arena gradually boiled when they heard the elderly voice of Xian Kongzi resounding over the sky. Everyone looked at each other before a loud bang sounded. One could see numerous figures suddenly rushing to the arena. Figures rushed in all directions at that moment. Even the scattering sunlight was slightly blocked by them. There were many stone platforms in the sky. It was not a problem for them to hold all of the remaining competitors. Even though the competitors had already undergone 2 rounds of elimination, where nearly 90% had been eliminated, the remaining number was still quite large. Over 1,000 people lifting their cauldrons together. This scene would be spectacular. Xiao Yang was also mixed within the human figures that came in all directions. He did not hurry to choose his own stone platform. Instead, he allowed the many figures to rush onto the stone stages. Some of the competitors had even ended up fighting over some of the stone platforms. Xiao Yang remained in the air. Only after most of the people had chosen their platforms did he step through the air and slowly land on a stone platform closer to the edge. One must be completely focused when refining medicinal pills. Almost every spot in the middle areas had been occupied. Should one end up being disturbed while refining pills, it would really be too late to cry. The size of this stone platform Xiao Yang had landed on was not large. It was only 2 to 3 feet in size. However, it was big enough to hold a person. He crossed his legs and sat down after having found his spot. After which, his eyes swept in all directions. They swept over Cao Ying, Dan Zhun, and Song Qing. The 3 of them some distance away. However, they did not snatch the middle stone platforms that appeared to possess a grand atmosphere. Instead, they had found quiet stone stages near the edges. Xiao Yang's eyes swept over the 3 before suddenly pausing on a floating stone platform that was not far from those 3. A black human figure was sitting there with his eyes shut, recuperating. This fellow, he is hiding his true aura again. Xiao Yang stared at the black figure. His eyebrows slightly frowned. Currently, old Mu Jiu no longer had the strength he had displayed back in the pill realm. His aura had become quite normal and was unknockable from an ordinary competitor's aura. However, after that incident, Xiao Yang's group was aware that this old fellow was definitely an extremely troublesome enemy. This old Mu Jiu is also a tier 8 alchemist. This kind of level is likely one that very few people among these competitors can surpass. Although I only need to enter the top 10 in order to obtain the opportunity to subdue the 3000 burning flame, this old fellow is extremely mistrusting. He would not allow others to touch the 3000 burning flame before him. Moreover, he was also a member of the Hall of Souls. If he were to obtain the champion spot of the Pill Tower's pill gathering, the Pill Tower would likely end up looking bad when the topic was brought up in the future. Hence, this old fellow will definitely choose to take the champion spot if he has the chance. Xiao Yang revealed a thoughtful expression. Although he could be considered to have advanced to the 8th tier within the pill realm, he had, after all, just entered it. There would definitely be a gap between him and an old demon like old Mu Jiu. After all, this old fellow was an expert from the same generation as Yarou Lao. How could he be an ordinary person? Despite putting it this way, Xiao Yang had no solution. The only thing Xiao Yang could do was put in all his effort and give it a try. In any case, he adopted the thought of obtaining the 3000 burning flame. If this old fellow wanted to hinder, he could only violently give him a kick. The chaos in the sky gradually ceased while this thought was lingering within Xiao Yang's heart. All the competitors had found their own stone platforms and were beginning to arrange their things in preparation of refining pills. Bang! Xian Kongzi's eyes slowly swept over those stone platforms in the air. A moment later, he raised his head and looked at the sky. He gently waved his sleeves and a bell clearly chimed for a long time over the competition grounds. It is time. Everyone, please raise your cauldrons and refine your pills. Bang! Xian Kongzi's words had just sounded when the atmosphere instantly solidified. Soon after, medicinal cauldron rushed out from all directions. They eventually landed on the ground. Ringing metallic sounds continuously resonated across the sky. Some low uproars resounded over the square as everyone looked at the densely packed medicinal cauldron. This was likely the first time that they had seen so many high-grade medicinal cauldrons appearing at the same time. After most of the alchemists had summoned their medicinal cauldrons, some sizzling sounds began to resound over the sky. Immediately, numerous flames rose. Looking from a distance, it appeared as though they were fireworks, causing the entire sky to look unusually brilliant. Xiao Yang quietly sat cross-legged on the stone platform. He was not in a hurry to refine a medicinal pill. Instead, his eyes were slightly shut as he arranged the thoughts within his mind. The medicinal pill that he planned to refine during this pill gathering was naturally the bone-growing blood-fusing pill, which he had prepared the medicinal ingredients for. This medicinal pill was at the peak of the 7th tier. If one were smoothly refine it, it could even advance to the 8th tier. It could also be considered an extremely high-tier medicinal pill. If he could refine it, he should be able to gain the qualification to compete with all the experts. Cao Ying did not immediately act either. While Xiao Yang shut his eyes and fell deep into thought, she had shut her eyes and recuperated for a while before slowly summoning her medicinal cauldron. Cao Ying summoned her medicinal cauldron in front of everyone before flicking her finger. A cluster of red, eye-piercing flame slowly rose from her palm. The flame was a bright red color that was extremely eye-catching. It even appeared to be a little denser than fresh blood. While the flame rose, it was possible to vaguely see a tiny figure leaping within it like a fire spirit. This cluster of unusually red flames had just appeared when the flame within the cauldron of the surrounding alchemists slightly fluctuated. These shocked individuals hurriedly focused their minds to control their faces. After which, they tossed shocked gazes at Cao Ying. This is blood demon flame? The ripple that had suddenly appeared also attracted Xiao Yang's attention. He turned his eyes before pausing them on the red-colored fresh blood-like flame on Cao Ying's palm. He was slightly startled as shock flashed across his eyes. Xiao Yang possessed an understanding of this kind of strange flame that Cao Ying had summoned. He had seen it in some of the books Yarrow Larrow had left behind. This so-called blood demon flame was not a flame that was naturally formed. It was not overboard to say that it was a man-made flame similar to Xiao Yang's life transformation flame. However, the formation of this blood demon flame was a little unique because this thing was not formed from flames. Instead, it required one to gather the blood of nearly 1,000 fire affinity magical beasts and merge the fire affinity blood together. Finally, it would use the fire affinity energy within the blood to form a flame. This flame that took shape would become the blood demon flame. Of course, this flame was divided between the strong and the weak. The factor that separated the strong and weak was determined by the completeness of the tiny human figure within the flame. From the looks of the human figure within the flame on Cao Ying's hands, it was obvious that this flame was an extremely powerful blood demon flame. It was likely even stronger than Xiao Yang's life transformation flame if one wished to compare them. The strength of the blood demon flame was quite great. However, the method to create it was overly harsh. If one did not have the support of a large fortune, one would definitely be unable to gather the blood of nearly 1,000 fire affinity magical beasts. That Cao clan is extremely wealthy. They are able to create this blood demon flame for Cao Ying. Xiao Yang quietly sighed. With this blood demon flame, Cao Ying would definitely be like a tiger with the addition of wings. Her chances of successfully refining a pill would significantly increase. After Cao Ying, Song Qing and Dan Chen in the distance summoned their own flames. The flames of the both of them were beast flames. Although their flames could not be compared to Cao Ying's blood demon flame, they could be ranked among the top of the beast flames. They could also be considered a potent weapon in pill refinement. Xiao Yang's eyes had just been withdrawn when an unusually hot wave, he was familiar with, was suddenly emitted. He lifted his eyebrows and turned his head. It was possible to see that old Mu Jiyu clenching his fist. The deep blue sea heart flame rose. After which, it transformed into a fire snake that danced around his body. Bang! The couple of alchemists' expression, closest to old Mu Jiyu, suddenly changed when the sea heart flame appeared because they had discovered that the interior of their medicinal cauldrons had wiggled intensely at this moment. After which, a bang sound appeared and the interior of their cauldrons exploded. A hot wind caused a couple of people, who were unable to react in time, to fall from their stone platforms. Heavenly flame! A countless number of gazes in the square immediately shot over upon seeing this scene. Numerous exclamations resounded one after another. This was the first time that they had seen a heavenly flame in a pill gathering. Old Mu Jiyu merely lifted the corner of his mouth into a cold smile when those unlucky fellows were implicated. The sea heart flame danced around his body. It appeared just like an emperor among the tens of thousands of flames, and it was receiving the worship of the many flames. The fire snake that the sea heart flame had transformed into lingered around old Mu Jiyu. It appeared as though it was acting triumphant. Xiao Yang glanced indifferently at old Mu Jiyu, whose cold smile was visible on the corner of his mouth. A grin was also slowly lifted onto Xiao Yang's face. He gently clenched his hand and a jade-colored flame suddenly rushed out. It transformed into a fire dragon and emitted a strange roar at the sea heart flame from a great distance. Bang! The sea heart flame, which was lingering around old Mu Jiyu, immediately became sluggish amid the roar of the glazed lotus heart flame. The flame immediately rushed to old Mugu's palm in front of a countless number of stunned eyes, as though it was fleeing for its life. The entire square once again emitted wave after wave of uproars as they looked at the sudden scene that appeared in the sky. Numerous shocked eyes slid to the jade-green fire dragon surging out of Xiao Yang's body. This fire was unafraid of even the other party's heavenly flame. Clearly, this jade-green flame should also be a kind of heavenly flame. Moreover, its position on the heavenly flame ranking was likely even higher than the deep blue flame of old Mu Jiyu. The roaring jade-green flame was clearly targeting old Mu Jiyu. Hence, the other alchemists did not feel too much of a disruption. However, they still sensed the flame within their medicinal cauldron become much more violent when the roar sounded. Their expressions immediately changed. They were quite helpless in the face of the heavenly flames, which were the strongest of all flames. Xian Kongzi and the others on the tall stage revealed shocked expressions in their eyes when they saw the jade-green fire dragon that Xiao Yang had summoned. Their eyebrows were knit together a moment later as they talked somewhat uncertainly. If I have guessed correctly, the heavenly flame of the black-clothed person should be the sea heart flame ranked 15th. That jade-green heavenly flame of Xiao Yang should be ranked even higher than the sea heart flame, but why is it that I feel unfamiliar with it? There is indeed something not quite right. Although there are colors among the top 15 flames that are similar to it, it is still possible to find a lot of differences if one were to carefully compare them. The pretty woman nodded slightly and replied with surprise, could it be that this little fellow has found a new heavenly flame? Endless nature hid a countless amount of secrets. A natural item like the heavenly flame was even more mysterious. The heavenly flame ranking might possess a great authority, but it did not mean the heavenly flames of this world were only limited to what was ranked. Hence, the pretty woman had made this conjecture. I'm not certain. However, I can pick up scent of the green lotus core flame within the jade green flame, yet the position of the green lotus heart flame is a little behind that of the sea heart flame. How could it possibly cause the sea heart flame to fear it? That dark-skinned elder revealed an expression of thought as he replied. Looks like this little fellow possesses many secrets. The pill gathering this time around is going to be very interesting. It has been many years since a battle between heavenly flames has appeared. Shen Kongzi faintly smiled, but he did not probe too much into the matter. The pretty woman and the dark-skinned elder slowly nodded upon hearing his word. Old Mu Jiu glanced at the deep blue flame that had shrunk back into his hand. After which, his eyes stared at the distant Xiao Yang in a dense manner. He let out a cold snort and once again withdrew his gaze. He flicked his finger and the flame stood in the interior of his medicinal cauldron. At this moment, he did not have the time to bother with Xiao Yang. Once he had finished all of his tasks, he would take good care of this hateful fellow. Xiao Yang faintly smiled after having shaved down old Mu Gu's spirit. He finally withdrew his eyes. With a wave of his hand, the bright red 10,000 beast cauldron appeared in front of him. He gently waved his sleeves and the jade-green fire dragon rushed down from the sky. Finally, it entered the medicinal cauldron. A fierce flame swiftly caused the ice-cold medicinal cauldron's temperature to rise. After the temperature within the medicinal cauldron gradually rose, Xiao Yang's hand rubbed through the air and numerous medicinal ingredients immediately flew out of his storage ring. Finally, they remained suspended around his stone stage. At a brief glance, it was likely there were 100 of them. The degree of complication in the refinement of a medicinal pill at the tier of the bone-growing blood-fusing pill was unimaginable. If someone whose spiritual control failed to meet the criteria attempted it, it was likely one would have a headache by just simply looking at the many medicinal ingredients. The thing that gave one an even greater headache was that one needed to use a frighteningly accurate method to refine it. Xiao Yang shook his hand after having taken out these ingredients. 3 jade boxes appeared before gently floating in front of him. The interior of these jade boxes contained the 3 key medicinal ingredients needed to refine the bone-growing blood-fusing pill. Xiao Yang's expression became grave after preparing everything. The bone-growing blood-fusing pill was the highest tier medicinal pill would be the highest tier of pill he had ever attempted. It was also the toughest. If one were careless, one's ending would likely be extremely miserable. After all, something like pill refinement would frequently cause one to fall from the heavens into hell within a moment. The refinement method of the bone-growing blood-fusing pill quietly flowed around Xiao Yang's mind like flowing water. All the details that he needed to pay attention to were being firmly remembered in Xiao Yang's heart. Xiao Yang exhaled a deep breath of air. His narrowed eyes were slightly opened and a sternness flashed across them. With a wave of his sleeves, a couple of medicinal ingredients were separated from the bulk and tossed into the medicinal cauldron one after another. Once the medicinal ingredients entered the medicinal cauldron, they swiftly withered under the terrifying temperature of the glazed lotus heart flame. After which, under Xiao Yang's extremely powerful spiritual control, the couple of medicinal ingredients were refined into pure medicinal powder within a short 10 minutes. They were left gently suspended in a corner of the medicinal cauldron after a thought flashed through Xiao Yang's mind. After having refined the first batch of pure medicinal powder with the fastest speed, Xiao Yang's expression did not change. His hand continued to wave and medicinal ingredients began to continuously rush into the medicinal cauldron. However, regardless of just how numerous and messy these medicinal ingredients were, they were unable to cause Xiao Yang to feel any panic. Moreover, the good thing about having advanced to a tier 8 alchemist was finally beginning to expose itself. Xiao Yang could clearly sense the flame would immediately change with his thought when he refined medicinal ingredients. After which, it would refine the medicinal ingredient to the highest purity. The thing that caused Xiao Yang to feel the greatest surprise was that these medicinal ingredients that he had refined seemed to have been vaguely mixed with a trace of extremely faint spiritual aura. Although this kind of spiritual aura was extremely faint, it was still able to quietly but significantly improve the medicinal powder refined. A tier 8 alchemist is indeed extraordinary. Xiao Yang involuntarily felt joy flash across his heart when he sensed the small spiritual auras. This little spiritual aura, that was mixed in, should not be underestimated. The medicinal pill that was eventually refined by using these medicinal powders would definitely be more than a level higher in quality when compared with the similar medicinal pills that were refined by tier 7 alchemists. Xiao Yang had swiftly refined 1/3 of the medicinal ingredient into medicinal powders and medicinal liquids within a short half an hour or so. Xiao Yang's expression was still extremely solemn while refining these many medicinal ingredients. He gently exhaled a breath of air as his eyes turned to the 3 jade boxes in front of him. He could squander the other medicinal ingredients as he pleased. However, he tried his best to be careful when it came to these 3 key ingredients. A jade box flew away with a flick of Xiao Yang's finger, revealing a jade-green, dry vine. A rich life force spread out of it. This thing was one of the key items used to refine the bone-growing blood-fusing pill, the 10,000-year-old green spiritual vine. Xiao Yang hesitated for a moment as he looked at this dry vine. He waved his hand and threw it into his medicinal cauldron. He hurriedly focused his mind on controlling the flame. The flame fiercely burned within the medicinal cauldron. That seemingly weak 10,000-year-old green spiritual vine did not show the slightest change even after being subjected to such a high temperature. If one were to look carefully, one would be able to discover a slight fluorescent light being emitted from the dry vine, isolating it from the high temperature. All the intelligent beings on the continent possessed an ability to protect themselves. This did not cause Xiao Yang to be surprised. As long as he persisted during this stalemate, he would sooner or later be able to refine this 10,000-year-old green spiritual vine. Xiao Yang slightly shut his eyes while maintaining his flame. If he wanted to refine this 10,000-year-old green spiritual vine, the time needed would likely be a lot. Of course, things were indeed just as Xiao Yang had expected. This refinement lasted for nearly half a day or so. Only then did the 10,000-year-old green spiritual vine gradually break apart. Droplets of a jade-green liquid had become partially visible within the crevices. After the surface of the 10,000-year-old green spiritual vine had been broken, everything else had become much more relaxing. The 10,000-year-old green spiritual vine eventually transformed into a cluster of emerald green liquid after Xiao Yang spent another hour. It remained suspended in the flame as though it possessed some life, slowly wiggling as it did so. Xiao Yang sighed in relief when he looked at the emerald liquid that this 10,000-year-old green spiritual vine had transformed into. He immediately waved his hand and the many medicinal powders and medicinal liquids suspended in the corner of the medicinal cauldron swiftly rushed forth. They were all thrown into the emerald-colored liquid under the control of Xiao Yang's grave face. This initial merger step was done quite perfectly by Xiao Yang. Around an hour or so, a cluster of liquid items surfaced in the jade-green flame. The first refinement step had been successful. Even Xiao Yang himself was quite surprised at this point. However, he also understood that the reason he had been able to reach this stage was mostly because his soul had advanced to the soul state in the pill realm. In the past, things would not have been so smooth even if he could succeed. Xiao Yang rested a little after completing the first step. After which, he placed all of his attention on the even more complicated subsequent refinements. Many stone platforms were suspended in the sky. All the competitors within those stone platforms were currently controlling their flames with grave faces as they refined a medicinal pill within their own medicinal cauldrons. The entire place was very quiet. Countless numbers of gazes were gathered on these busy people in the sky. They were waiting for the arrival of the final day. The pill gathering would reach its climax at that time. The champion of the pill gathering would also appear on that day. Although the wait was dull, everything was worthwhile for the most exciting moment of their lives. Pill refinement was an extremely time-consuming task. It was not rare for one to refine a medicinal pill for 10 days to half a month. The people seated here were clearly aware of this kind of situation. Therefore, they did not appear impatient because of the long wait. Most of those who could hurry to Holy Pill City to observe were those who had some strength. They also naturally possessed this kind of necessary patience. Time quietly flowed by amid the countless number of anticipatory gazes. 5 days quietly passed within the short blink of an eye. The refinement in the sky had appeared quite calm during these 5 days. However, there would occasionally be some low, deep voices being emitted. These were the cauldron explosion sounds that were emitted when a problem appeared during the refinement. There was also a small portion of alchemists who had successfully refined their medicinal pills during these 5 days. However, when their medicinal pills were refined, they understood that their participation in this competition had come to an end because the medicinal pills of a higher tier required a longer time. Those like them could only be the characters who filled the bottom spots. The gazes of the entire place did not linger on the small number of alchemists who had finished refining their medicinal pills. Most gazes were pausing on Cao Ying, Song Qing, and some of the other alchemist grandmasters with great reputations. They were aware that the competition between these people was where the most interesting part of this pill gathering lay. Xiao Yang had made a mistake once during these 5 days. An extremely careless mistake while merging the snowbone ginseng made him decisively abandon the refinement and choose to refine all over again. Fortunately, no errors occurred when he merged the snowbone ginseng a second time. After all, Xiao Yang had only prepared 2 sets of medicinal ingredients. If he were to fail, he would have to find some other method. Xiao Yang's shut eyes were slowly opened when the sun on the 5th day had risen to the middle of the sky. His expression was solemn as he looked at the interior of the medicinal cauldron. There were 3 clusters of medicinal liquids. These 3 things might appear inconspicuous, but they emitted a concentrated, pure medicinal strength that caused one shake. These 3 types of things were the result of Xiao Yang's refinement during these 5 days. Currently, his refinement had been successfully completed. Next, he needed to perfectly merge these three things together and calcinate them until they took an embryonic form before becoming a pill. Merger was the most important step in pill refinement. Moreover, Xiao Yang currently did not possess many medicinal ingredients. He could not easily fail during this merger. Otherwise, he would not only exhaust time, but the exhaustion of one's spiritual strength would also be terrifying. Refining a medicinal pill of this tier was quite a tiring event. How could it last for so long? Xiao Yang tried his best to maintain his peak condition. His eyes swiftly glanced at Cao Ying in the distance. Old Mu Jiyu and the rest were currently controlling the medicinal cauldron within the flame with grave expressions. There was a faint energy ripple being spreading from them. The medicinal cauldron of these fellows are not ordinary items. They kept over half of the ripples in the medicinal cauldron. Otherwise, I would be able to guess just what tier the medicinal pill they were refining belonged to. Xiao Yang slightly sighed in his heart when he saw the focused manner of Cao Ying and the others. He quickly withdrew his attention and inhaled a deep breath of hot air. His grave eyes turned to the interior of his medicinal cauldron. A thought passed through his mind and the glazed lotus heart flame lingering within the medicinal cauldron swiftly swept forth, wrapping around all three types of pure medicinal liquid. The step of merging medicinal strength imposed a harsh requirement on the alchemist's control ability. Even the slightest unexpected change during this period would lead to one's effort going to waste. Hence, this step was unusually important. Xiao Yang clearly understood this point. Hence, he focused all of his attention. A mighty spiritual strength filled every corner of the medicinal cauldron. Any slight changes within it would instantly be fed to his mind. Under Xiao Yang's grave treatment, there was fortunately not many mistakes during the merger. Although this merger process was extremely slow, who would dare increase one's speed at this moment? Stability held the priority in everything. The time required to merge medicinal strengths was the longest among all of the many pill refining steps. Xiao Yang's merger continued for nearly 10 days before it finally approached the end. Time swiftly flowed by like sand between one's fingers. Half a month passed within the blink of an eye. An increasing number of alchemists had refined their medicinal pills during this period. Hence, the competition grounds were filled with pill fragrances that would not scatter. After inhaling a breath of air, the tiredness that had resulted from the long wait had also suddenly disappeared. Although an increasing number of competitors had successfully refined their medicinal pills, not a single one of those medicinal pills successfully stirred the appearance of pill lightning. The best among them merely stirred some dark clouds in the sky. However, not even the flash of lightning appeared within the clouds, let alone a true pill lightning descending from it. Not many people felt disappointed about this situation because they knew the pill gathering was gradually approaching its climax. The medicinal pills that were currently being refined had already climbed to the 6th tier. It was likely that a true tier 7 medicinal pill would be successfully refined very soon. Xiao Yang ignored the change in the outside world. His eyes were unblinking as they remained locked on the interior of the medicinal cauldron. After 10 long and slow days of merging the medicinal strengths, there was a vague fist-sized round ball-like thing within the flame in his medicinal cauldron. This small ball was formed from over 100 medicinal ingredients' essence strength. However, the medicinal pill was still only in its embryonic form. Although it could not even be called an embryonic form, the most difficult refinement step was at least over. Next, as long as Xiao Yang's condition was stable, he would truly be able to refine this bone-growing blood-fusing pill. However, before the complete pill formed, he still requires some brewing time. Bang! The deep sound of thunder suddenly resounded over the sky above the somewhat hot area. Immediately, countless numbers of eyes were shifted over. They saw that dark clouds had unknowingly appeared in the sky. However, the interior of these dark clouds emitted rumbling thunder, clearly a sign of pill lightning forming. Pill lightning. There is a tier 7 medicinal pill that is about to be born. An uproar resounded over the stadium when everyone saw the unusual phenomenon in the sky. Immediately, a countless number of gazes were gathered on a stone platform below the sky. A middle-aged man was looking at the thunder cloud in the sky with wild joy on his face. He was the first person who had attracted pill lightning. The appearance of pill lightning had attracted the attention of Xiao Yang, who had been focusing his mind on brewing the medicinal pill. His narrowed eyes were slightly widened. After glancing at the thunder clouds in the distant sky, he nodded his head a little. Based on this weak pill lightning, it was likely that the medicinal pill being born should be a tier 7 low-grade level. Xiao Yang's eyes took a glance before being withdrawn. His gaze once again turned to Cao Ying and the rest, and his heart involuntarily jumped. This time around, he could vaguely sense the energy ripples being emitted from within the medicinal cauldron of the few of them. From the looks of these fluctuations, it was likely the medicinal pills they were refining were not ordinary things. There is really a great amount of pressure. I wonder if I will be able to become the champion by relying on this bone-growing blood-fusing pill. If this is insufficient, it is likely that I could only. Xiao Yang's eyes also slightly flickered when he thought until this point. He bitterly laughed before withdrawing his thoughts. Who cares? Currently, the most important thing was to sit back and observe. That thing was merely his final tactic. Within just half a day after the first pill lightning appeared, some thunderclouds began to gather in the sky again. Moreover, looking at the strength of these thunderclouds, they were clearly stronger than earlier. Clearly, there should be a competitor who had refined a medicinal pill of a better grade. This subsequent period of time had become lively with 2 to 3 pill lightnings appearing every day. The density of these pill lightnings were not uniform. However, based on Xiao Yang's guess, the highest grade medicinal pill should only be that of a tier 7 middle grade. The square had also become unusually lively due to the occasional pill lightning that appeared. The dispiritedness of a couple of days earlier had completely disappeared. Each time a tier 7 medicinal pill was born, it would attract quite a number of coveting eyes. A medicinal pill of this grade possessed an extremely great allure to most experts, except those who had already advanced to the Dozun class. Bang! Pill lightning, which was usually rare to see, had become commonplace in the sky. This caused quite a number of people to feel like this was an eye-opening experience. Following the flow of time, there were fewer and fewer stone platforms with flames still rising. In the end, there were basically less than 50. However, everyone knew that those who remained were definitely the top existences within the alchemist world across the Dochi continent. If things did not deviate from expectations, the champion of this pill gathering would be born among these remaining people. The atmosphere had unknowingly become serious and more tense as the crowd watched the rising pill fires that rose over the dozens of stone platforms. Those present understood that the most intense competition was about to begin. Rolling thunder continued to reverberate over this vast, azure sky. The thick clouds gave one an extremely pressurizing feeling. Bang! A silver-colored giant python-like bolt of lightning suddenly tore through the sky from the thick, dark cloud. It explosively rushed down before being forcefully received by a human figure on a stone platform. Immediately, a substance-like pill fragrance spread apart. "Ha ha, I have succeeded." That man, whose hair was a little white, laughed wildly at the sky in front of everyone's eyes. His hand held a dragon eye-sized medicinal pill that was emitting an alluring luster. None of those present reprimanded this man, who had lost himself, and laughed out loud. Instead, there was an additional heat in their eyes as they looked at him. An alchemist grandmaster, who could refine a tier 7 middle-grade medicinal pill, would definitely receive VIP treatment no matter where he went. Currently, the pill gathering had entered its last stages. At this moment, there were only 2 types of people still continuing to refine medicinal pills. The first type were those who truly possessed great talent, while the other type were those simply making up the numbers. Of course, in this kind of situation, the first group held the majority. After all, there were very few people with faces thick enough to embarrass themselves in this kind of event. If one were to carefully count the number of pill fires still rising on the stone platforms, one would find that there were still 36 left. In other words, there were still 36 competitors focused on preparing the medicinal pill that they were best at with great care. These 36 people naturally included Xiao Yang, Cao Ying, Old Mu Jiyu, Dan Chen, and the other competitors who were viewed as the people with the most potential to become this pill gathering's champion. Xiao Yang sat on his stone platform. Rolling thunder reverberating in the air had already been filtered out by him. All of his focus had been thrown into the medicinal cauldron. A jade-green flame was fiercely burning within the medicinal cauldron. The hot temperature caused the pill cauldron to appear a little red. All of this, however, was not the target of Xiao Yang's focus. His eyes had been staring at the slowly rotating spherical object within the flame. This so-called spherical object was naturally something that was the merger of over 100 types of medicinal essences. However, this thing shrank from the size of a fist to the size of a pigeon egg. Moreover, its shape was becoming rounder within the burning flame. An energy ripple that caused Xiao Yang to feel shocked was vaguely being formed following the gradual shrinking of this spherical object. This kind of ripple had already exceeded that of an ordinary tier 7 peak-grade medicinal pill. Xiao Yang's heart was filled with joy over this kind of change. The current him was confident that he could raise the bone-growing blood-fusing pill to the 8th tier. Xiao Yang suppressed the slight excitement within his heart and hurriedly stabilized his mind. Currently, he was in the most crucial moment. He could not afford to lose even the slightest focus. The faces of everyone on the other stone platforms were also filled with grave expressions while Xiao Yang was refining his medicinal pill with all his effort. The faces of some of them had even revealed a paleness. Clearly, this kind of exhaustion was really something that they had difficulty enduring. Bang! A certain part of the sky suddenly emitted a low, deep explosion in front of the eyes of a countless number of people. The hearts of everyone immediately sank. Their gazes swiftly flew over, only to see a middle-aged man staring at the medicinal cauldron in front of him with a stunned expression. There was a chaotic energy ripple being emitted from within. Clearly, an unexpected situation had occurred during the refinement. How is this possible? The middle-aged man was dull as he looked at the medicinal cauldron. His eyes instantly turned blood red. He had worked hard for 20+ days only for all his effort to go to waste. This kind of blow was really a little too difficult for him to endure. Everyone quietly sighed within their hearts as they watched the dull expression of the middle-aged man. They felt a little regretful for this person. Failure was not rare when it came to pill refinement. However, a slight failure at this moment would decide if one would lose the qualification to compete with the other experts. There were those who were happy and those who were anxious. If there were those who succeeded, there would naturally be those who failed. The pill gathering had never been a stage for comedy to be performed. During the remaining time, there were people continuously refining a medicinal pill successfully among the 30+ people who remained. Of course, there were also those who failed. All of these people who failed became a lot more dispirited without exception. Although they might not be able to obtain the top 10 position even if they were to refine their pills successfully, there would, at the very least, have been a chance. However, if they failed in their refinement, they would not have even the slightest chance. The competitors who could still remain at this moment were people who could definitely be compared with some of the elders of the Pill Tower. Some of the top experts were even at a level that the Pill Tower's elders were far from being able to match. The moods of a countless number of people in the stadium were growing better during this period of time. Within the blink of an eye, a competitor, whom they viewed as the dark horse of this pill gathering, might end up failing his refinement due to some small mistake, losing his qualification to continue competing within the blink of an eye. At this time, they realized that refining pills was something that ordinary people couldn't do. Another 5 days quietly passed amid the anticipation of a countless number of gazers. 9 people had successfully refined their medicinal pills during these 5 days. The highest grade medicinal pill was a Tier 7 high-grade medicinal pill. This medicinal pill had immediately attracted pill lightning when it appeared. The continuous sound of roaring thunder caused quite a number of people to feel afraid. The one who had successfully refined this medicinal pill was an old man with an elderly face. This person likely had some reputation on the continent. Hence, it was not too surprising that he was able to be the first to refine a Tier 7 high-grade medicinal pill. Of course, with some people succeeding, it was only natural that some people failed. 9 people succeeded during these 5 days while 7 others failed. They chose to withdraw with great unwillingness in front of many pitiful eyes. Following the withdrawal of these 16 people, and the competitors who had withdrew earlier due to some reasons, there were only 17 people who remained on the stone platforms refining pills. The filter of time was extremely accurate. Currently, the 17 remaining people, judging from their auras, were definitely not ordinary individuals. The lowest tier badge on their chests was that of a Tier 7 middle-grade alchemist. The highest tier was surprisingly a genuine Tier 8 alchemist guru. This Tier 8 alchemist was someone that Xiao Yang was extremely unfamiliar with. Moreover, he had never paid attention to this person in the past. Clearly, this person had purposefully hid his aura. This unfamiliar Tier 8 alchemist was a grey-haired, old man. His elderly face was like an orange peel. Clearly, he should also be an expert from the older generation. Although his outer appearance was lacking, his face was always covered in a warm smile, giving him a more pleasing appearance than old Mu Jiyu. Time was the best filter. It was able to eliminate those lacking from the thousands of competitors and allow those true experts to remain. It is unexpected that old Qing Hua has survived. Xian Kongzi's group on the tall stage looked at the grey-haired, old man that had finally been revealed from the sea of people. They were slightly startled and immediately looked at each other. All of them felt a little helpless. This old fellow can really embarrass himself. Looking at the fluctuations within his medicinal cauldron, it is likely a Tier 8 medicinal pill. The pretty woman gently nodded as she spoke. The most cherished wish of this old fellow is to obtain a type of heavenly flame. Back then, he and Yarrow Chen had remained in that terrible place for a number of years. However, Yarrow Chen was still the one who found the bone-chilling flame. He would naturally come and give it a try now that he had an opportunity to obtain the 3000 burning flame. The dark-skinned elder reminisced. Xian Kongzi helplessly shook his head. After which, his eyes suddenly turned to a certain stone platform. A black-clothed old Mu Jiyu was focusing his attention and refining his medicinal pill at that spot. This person's aura has remained hidden even now. Moreover, his face seems to have been altered. I wondered just who that expert is. Could it be the disguise of some old fellow who is unwilling to embarrass himself? The pretty woman knit her eyebrows and wondered aloud. No idea. However, he will definitely be unable to hide his aura once the medicinal pill embryonic form was created. At that time, one will know with a glance. It is all right as long as he is not a member of the Hall of Souls. The pretty woman and the rest nodded upon hearing this. A wild wind whistled over the azure sky. The dark clouds had scattered. However, rolling thunder continued to appear for an unknown amount of time. This strange scene caused quite a number of people to quietly feel stunned. However, everyone with some experience was aware that these thunderous sounds did not fall from the sky. Instead, they were emitted from the medical cauldrons on the stone platforms. Bang! A low, deep sound suddenly appeared. Before everyone could hurriedly shift their eyes, they sensed a majestic energy ripple suddenly surge from the stone platform in a lightning-like fashion. Following the surging of this energy, the dark clouds in the sky instantly gathered as a countless number of silver snakes wiggled in all directions. It's Song Qing. Some of the sharp-eyed people finally saw Song Qing, who had been seated cross-legged, suddenly stand up. He looked at the thick, dark clouds in the sky with high spirits. This was clearly his doing. The pill lightning that appeared this time around was even wilder and more violent compared to any of the earlier pill lightnings. This was enough to cause him to feel proud. It is actually a Tier 7 peak grade medicinal pill. Looks like its quality is even higher than the Tier 7 peak grade medicinal pill that appeared earlier. Song Qing raised his hand slowly amid the backdrop of lightning all over the sky. An unusually round medicinal pill, like a bright night pearl, was lifted high up. The pill lightning in the sky appeared at this moment. Upon hearing the exclamations of the many people mixed with the loud thunder, a wild smile was slowly lifted on his face. Immediately, his gaze, that contained slight provocation, shot to a distant stone platform. That spot was where Xiao Yang was located. This video will end here. Thank you for watching.